Welcome to the Dr. Bros, where we have an honest discussion around vet life in and out of the clinic. My name is Jeff. I'm your doc of the day and your guide through this episode. I am a third-year resident in dermatology, a veterinarian living in Louisville, Kentucky.
Hey, this is Chris. I'm a GP in North Carolina.
Hey everybody, this is Adam. I am a relief veterinarian in Louisville, Kentucky.
This is the next part of our episode on busting veterinary myths. This is a continuation from last week, so if you haven't heard it yet, you don't have to go back, but it will make this episode more fun, so go back and take a listen. Anyway, we hope you enjoy hearing about more myths. Let's look at some animal-based myths and tackle them. So my first one was, and this one's more client-based, all veterinarians hate Dr. Google. Who wants to go?
I'll go. This is Adam. It depends. So I've seen both ends of the spectrum with this, where you have the people who just go hardcore with the internet and believe absolutely everything they read on the internet. They go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and just all like the voodoo stuff and all the like, your vet is trying to kill your pet, you need to do this instead. But then I've had other people who have scheduled appointments because of something they read online that could be a potential problem. And that's what brought them in the first place. So I think there's a place for it. But at the same time, take it with a grain of salt. And most clients are pretty good about that. They'll read something online, and some of them will even say, I'm sure you love it when, people come in reading Dr. Google. But, they'll bring something and be like, well, I read this online. Is this accurate? And they'll kind of present it that way, which shows me in a sense that they care because they're doing their research, but at the same time, they're consulting with a professional. So I do appreciate that. But again, you kind of see both ends of the spectrum with that.
This is Chris. I agree with all that, and you're definitely. I think earlier on in the veterinary world, when Google was becoming a bigger thing and people were just Googling everything, like I think people were like more vets. I don't know. This is my own opinion. Were kind of more hesitant about it, but I don't care if people Google things. Like Google it. It is what it is. I'll tell you I think it's false or it's true or not. I'll also ask them like where they source their information from. Mm-hmm. And I know some people think, read things online. I'm like, okay, but where did you get that from? And people are like, oh, I got it from like a Facebook group. I'm like, that's just someone else's opinion. Like, were they like a vet that told you? Or they're like, no, it's just like some guy. I'm like, then that's probably not true. Or like if it is true or they did say something like that, like is there a paper or something that kind of backs up this information? And a lot of times the people they mostly like no, and they're just like, okay, and we just kind of talk about it. The ones that are kind of adamant about things, I'm like, well, show me papers and I'll believe you. Like I'm I'm very open. I'm like, just tell me, like, if you can show it to me, I'll believe you. Like we're not right 100% of the time. Like if you think you're right all the time, like you're probably not doing medicine right. So there's always room to learn, but I do not dislike people who use Dr. Google. Like I encourage it. I'm like, go look it up. Here are some websites you go look up. Here's websites that I trust. Don't look at these websites because it's a lot of made up stuff, I believe. But again, I think if you steer them in the right direction, most people, like you said, Adam, they're trying to look up what could be helpful for their pet or they're caring. So they're trying to figure a way out. But again, if they didn't care about our opinion, then they wouldn't ask us what we thought about it. So I think that goes to show like they're still coming to see us. Now, if they don't do what we say or do something completely off the rails, like, okay, that's their choice. We can't make them do. Again, it's our best recommendation.
This is Jeff, and I think both of you are exactly right. I think as far as the myth goes, it depends. So I 1000% agree. Some of the points you mentioned, Chris, I was going to bring up myself. Like if you come in and you everyone's going to Google, you're going to Google what's going on with your dog or cat. Like you absolutely will. But if you come in with an open mind and you're like, hey, I read this, I'm not sure if it's true, what's your opinion? Then it makes having an open discussion about it easier. And I usually tell my clients, allow me to be your filter. So you can come in with the information, I can tell you if it's legit or not, or if it's, straight up not true, or if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. I have also asked for sources. So if you send me a well-written journal article and it's a legit source and I'm like, oh, you just taught me something new. Great. Yeah, let's move forward with your plan. That makes sense. I don't care. I'm here to learn. We're all here in the interest of your pet and you're coming to me as a service. But if you come in sideways trying to karate chop my neck and not listening to what I say, I'm kind of confused as to what we're doing here. Because again, you came to see me. So when you're not letting me get a word in edgewise or really not taking my opinion into consideration, I don't take it personally from the sense that you must listen to me. I am the doctor, but it does cause confusion because I'm like, well, you came to see me and I'm telling you my opinion based on my years in school and expertise, but you're listening to Bernice off Facebook, and I shout out to any Bernices out there that wasn't personal, but it does make me confused because, my opinion is typically I try to base them off of science and what I've learned in school and what I continue to learn even through continuing education. So it's very confusing. If you come in sideways, kind of narrow-minded, it's going to be a more confusing visit than if you come in more open-minded, ready to discuss things further. So let's try to hit 2 more and then end out with a final question I've got for the both of you. And we'll go for some more low-ball ones. So, myth. Indoor cats do not need flea prevention.
That is 100% true.
No!
I'm kidding.
Don't piss off the dermatologist.
No, that is very false. My favorite story I tell people, like, oh, my cat's indoors, I don't need flea prevention. And I said, I had a sweet old lady that had a bunch of cats that lived in her basement. And she goes, they never go outside. But they're itching and they're losing the hair and everything. But I mean, it must be just something that's in the basement. And as I'm like looking at the cat and pushing the hair forward off of its, like butt area there, I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, what's in your basement is fleas. And she goes, no, that can't be true. Like she like thought I was lying to her and she's like, didn't believe. And I just flicked off like a handful of fleas. And I'm like, those are all fleas right there. And she still like didn't believe it. And I'm like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, that's flea dirt. These are fleas. Like, and it wasn't like 1 or 2 fleas, like covered in fleas, like just a flea infestation. I said, not only do you need to treat your cats and put them on prevention, you need to treat your house for fleas. Like, this is a problem. And so usually people hear that and like, you need to put them on something. And we get this here in North Carolina, like, oh, it's winter, like fleas aren't out. Like, we don't need to do that at all. It's not the season for it. And I said, yeah, fleas like to go where it's warm. Your house is warmer. They're going to go inside. And that shows like, hey, like you just need to put them on all the time. There's plenty of people that will just be adamant and be like, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, I can't twist your arm, but when you come back for flea medication, like you need this stuff. So yes, they need it 100% to be indoors.
And this is Jeff. And what I just wanted to piggyback off of that was they need it. And also it's really important for the patients who are coming with problems. So if you come to me, and being in dermatology, I see this often enough, and it is confusing. I think owners don't realize, and this is true, that fleas are excellent jumpers, and they don't want you so much as they want your dog, because our human temperatures are actually lower than the normal walking around temperature of a resting dog or cat. So they prefer dogs. They can hop on our clothing from going outside, being about our day, and come inside. If your dog or cat's lucky enough to not have allergies or allergies to fleas or a problem, great. The recommendation from your vet's still probably going to be to protect them to prevent these problems. But in particular, the patients who are coming with itchiness and problems are the ones that do need to be protected. And surprisingly, yes, indoor only cats should be protected from fleas, whether you see them or not.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point about how fleas can jump on people's clothing brought into the house, and then they can hide in places like in the couch and the carpet, all kinds of crazy places. And I feel like the problem that I see a lot with clients is that a lot of them synonymize fleas with like hoarding situations or like dirty environments, and that's not always the case. Like, I'm not saying you're a dirty person just because your cat has fleas. Like, that's not the case. They can sneak in. It happens. I also tried to pair that, because most of the flea and tick preventions that I use for cats also cover heartworms. Yes, cats can get heartworms as well as dogs, and actually, with cats, there is no treatment for heartworms. So it's even more important to keep them on a heartworm prevention as well. So that covers heartworms, fleas, and ticks. So let's go ahead and cover them for everything. And who hasn't had a mosquito in their house? So I try to pitch that as we need to protect against all of these things, and all of these things can be covered by this one product.
I think that's an excellent point, and certainly if there are any vet owners listening, go and ask your vet about the big three: fleas, heartworms, and ticks, about what prevention makes the most sense for your pet. Certainly, in general, covering all three is a good rule of thumb. So my last myth, before I get to my final question for y'all, is a pretty straightforward one. I only need to take my pet to the vet when it's sick.
So this is Adam. I would obviously disagree with that. There is such a thing as preventative medicine. Again, one thing we just covered was fleas, heartworms, ticks, doing that, especially on dogs, doing the annual heartworm test, make sure we're negative for heartworms as well as tick-borne diseases, staying current on our preventative in terms of our heartworm, flea, and tick prevention, staying up to date on our vaccines, especially if we're going to places like dog parks, especially if we're outside a lot, exposed to things like lepto, something we should definitely vaccinate against, and especially exposed to wildlife outside, definitely staying up to date on that rabies, because not only is it deadly to the pet, it can be deadly to people. And it's also the law to have your dog vaccinated for rabies. So if you don't want to break the law, I would recommend getting them a rabies vaccine. So yes, it is important to stay up to date on that. I have some clients that come in that we see only when their dog is sick. We'll see them once every 5-6 years. And they're like, oh, they're super healthy. We're never here. And I'm like, well, those aren't necessarily synonymous. But that's a different conversation. Let's take care of your sick pet. But yes, there are a lot of important things that need to be addressed with those yearly or bi-yearly exams that include preventative medicine.
This is Chris. I agree. There's nothing else really to add to that besides just bring your dog. Vets are notorious for being bad about going in for themselves for preventative medicine.
True.
Which true. We should also go all the time, but and do yearly blood work on ourselves, not pulling our own blood, like going to the doctor and doing it, like let them do their thing. But I do, dogs, cats, we need to see you just to make sure you're healthy. Some of it also, I will say, it is on the vets to kind of help remind them. I do think reminders. Sure. I think our practice does a really good job of sending out reminders. It is actually the point where it's a little bit annoying because I get those text messages now for my pets, and I'm like, I saw it, thank you, and it just again, it was making me prompt to go see it. I'm like, at least you're on top of me to do it, and I've now experienced what it's like for a client. I'm like, if you don't go, you're just definitely not going, but at least I think that helps too. Again, years ago, we weren't saying preventive medicine as much. We're just there for you're sick. But I don't know. That's back when I was a kid. They're not texting you because there wasn't text message then. And they're not sending you emails about hey, and they weren't going to give you a phone call, say, hey, you're due for your yearly. That was just on you to remember to come in a year to come back for your checkup. So I think now it's a little bit on vets, or at least the practice itself, to remind the people to come in. And then it's just them to come in. You definitely need to come in and we need to see your pet just to make sure it's healthy. There's been plenty of times we've diagnosed something on a healthy visit. That's and I just put air quotes in there. It's not we not diagnosed at that time, but like we saw something, hey, like this might be cancer. And we send you to a specialist, or we kind of do some more diagnostics, or for cats coming in for a healthy visit, you diagnose kidney disease or early kidney disease on blood work. Like now we can at least get ahead of it. And now instead of waiting for your cat to be super sick, we can start treating now, and we can potentially prolong their life now by starting treatment early versus waiting until they're knocking on death's door. Hyperthyroid is another one I think of for cats. Dogs, I mean, liver disease, just so many different diseases that we can just kind of spot earlier, and it's good to get in there earlier, and we can actually make your dogs and cats live longer if we had just caught it earlier. So I definitely think you need to come in as at least once a year, twice a year if you're over 6-7 years old, depending on your dog.
For sure. This is Jeff again. I think all your points, 100% on the money. Other things that I think are important to remember is sometimes the vet owners don't know exactly what normal is, or gradual changes have happened to their pet and they're caught on our physical exam, and we're like, whoa, this is actually extremely important to check into, whether it be the blood work, your pet's getting overweight, maybe they're showing signs of Cushing's, like eating too much, drinking too much, peeing too much, and they've been doing that forever. And we're like, actually, that's something that we can diagnose and treat. And they don't realize gradual changes. So that's important for those regular visits, the prevention for sure. And then one that I don't think anybody brought up yet is recheck visits. So if I see you and you're sick, just because they get better doesn't mean I don't need the recheck, because that helps me as a doctor see, are they better because of the medicine? Are they better? Why did they get better? Is my medicine working? Did I do a good job? Is your pet feeling better because we checked all the boxes we need to? And then it also helps me, if your pet gets sick again later, understand what's going on instead of only seeing them when they're sick. Sometimes it's hard. And I think owners understandably will forget what medications were used, what they thought helped XYZ. But if we can touch base when they're healthy or doing better, it's much easier for that long-term plan to keep them better even longer and for their longevity. So it's super, super helpful for me to put my eyes back on your pet and say, oh, they're doing better because of XYZ. And I'll put that note in the computer. Yeah, they look better. They feel better. I agree with everything you're saying. This is perfect. I'll see you again in 6 months to a year. That's actually an extremely helpful thing for owners to come back for their recheck exams when possible. And then to close things out, I just had a quick question for each of you. I wrote this as, what is your favorite aspect of being a veterinarian? Obviously, it's hard to shave it down to one thing, but give me maybe one thing to end on. Happy smiles, shines, and rainbows. Happy Pride. We're recording this during Pride Month. But tell me, what is one thing that you enjoy, that you really, really enjoy about being a vet?
This is Adam. I would say that recently, again, I've started doing relief work. And the thing that I've found that I really enjoy about it is getting the opportunity to work with different clinics and to meet different people in the field, and to also see how different clinics do things differently. I find that really interesting, not only from a medical management position, but also from a business position too, just seeing how different clinics do things differently in terms of what's best for how things run for them, how things are best for their patients, how things are best for their clients. And it's just been kind of cool to see that and then be able to take that personally and implement it in how I practice as well, to better serve my clients and better serve my patients. And that's been pretty cool to kind of carry that over and be able to, again, better myself by doing that.
Hey, this is Chris. My favorite aspect of veterinary medicine is surgery. It's what I enjoy doing the most. I enjoy the challenge of surgery, just seeing the variation in cases. I also like the follow-up after surgery, especially after a knee surgery. I can see that before the surgery, the patient wasn't walking. due to an ACL tear. They're just not feeling great. And then 8 to 12 weeks post-op, they're ready to go. They're biting at the bit. They're ready to start playing again. And that makes me feel good, just seeing that this dog was not doing well beforehand, and then afterwards he's ready to go back to normal and just kind of live life like he wants to. So overall, that's kind of my favorite thing of veterinary medicine is surgery.
For me personally, it's like slightly two-part, but I swear I'll be fast. One thing that I really enjoy is the client communication aspect, because I love teaching in like a one-on-one or one-on-two basis, and getting the client on board with my plan and getting them really involved in the pet care, and then the pet getting better is really important to me, and fun and super rewarding when I see them get better, as we've all like made this plan together. And then the other aspect that I really like is the community. So I don't think I was really expecting it, but the veterinary community itself I found in general to be very welcoming. And being the only person here who's Black and also gay, I've surprisingly have found an astounding LGBTQ plus community within VetMed to connect with, and also like a Black community within VetMed. And there aren't very many of us. There's less than 2% in the profession that are Black. So it's a small group, but it's been great to see like such a welcoming community, and to have that, I guess, other people who look like me to work with has been really nice, and just to have shared community with these other two identities that I carry. Thank you so much for listening to the Dr. Bros. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. We will love you forever. It would also help us out if you could share this episode with others who may be interested in today's topic. You can also tell us what you want to hear. You can drop suggestions in the comments or shoot us an email at thedoctorbros@gmail.com or DM us at thedoctorbros on Instagram. You can also reach me at DermDrJeff, DermDogtorJeff on Instagram and TikTok.
Hey, this is Chris, and you can reach me on Instagram at Dr. Chris Hernandez. That's dr.chrishernandez.
And this is Adam. You can reach me on Instagram at Dr. Adam DVM. That's DRADAMDVM.